Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Edge podcast brought to you by Lockin, where we have tough conversations with traders that have seen it all and made it to the top. Guys, today my guest is JordiCharts. And man, like we spoke before the podcast, this guy is pretty organized. He does sports, he has a life, which is rare in the trading space because a lot of these guys, they don't really have a life. And today I want to get to know you a little bit more. I want to understand, how you trade, how did you start in trading, how did you develop your strategies, and also your mistakes, because I think that's what builds every single trader. Thanks for coming on. How you doing, man?
Thank you for having me. That's a great introduction, first of all. Yeah, I'm doing great, brother. It's just so chill. I've been on X networking a little bit for about 6 months now. And
Nice.
if I look what comes rolling out of it, like these kind of interviews, but also matching with similar kind of people, matching energies, it's truly been a blessing for me. I really, really like it so far.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. I think social media, it's like we live in interesting times because it can be an insane distraction, but it also can be an insane leverage. Like if you go back 40, 50 years ago and you tell those people, oh, now we have this thing that we can send a message to whoever we want, they're like, what are you talking about, right?
Yeah.
So we truly live in a good time, I would say.
Yes, brother. I completely agree with that. I always say that social media, in my perception, is like a curse and a blessing at the same time. Like a blessing in a sense that there's just so much information available, and also the ability to convey information in an easy way, and in that way, of course, leverage that. But then there's also this curse of social media where on the creator side of things, you can also supply a lot of information, and that information sometimes does more harm than it brings for people. I think in this current era, social media for the majority makes it so that people are very oriented on the low time frame, on the low time frame rewards, comparing materialistic things with other people, and it can be a little bit toxic for most, I think.
Actually, I really agree with you. And I want to ask you this. Do you think that social media impacts the way you trade?
Yes, in a way it does, because if I look at my own trading, my trading is about a process. I look at my trading career as a process, not as, well, I have this and this and this now. And what we discussed just now, I think a lot of people are focused on the result and not on a process. And if, yeah, that's what I'm seeing from social media continuously. And if I lay my trading next to it, it's almost the exact opposite. And it's almost with any endeavor I go through. You spoke about my hobbies. It's with gym, it's the same thing. I see it as a lot of people want something on a low time frame, and that's what they come in for in trading. And then later on realize it's kind of impossible without that process backing it. So that's what influences me in a way. What about you? How do you feel that? How does it influence your trading?
Mm, I would say over time, I kind of learned how, before I would say, I used to always see what people I somehow follow or admire, and I would see what they do. So
Yes.
that would mean that I will not develop my own strategy. Like my
Yes.
moves on the market would be a byproduct of like 10 influencers I respect and I track, and they have
Yes. Yes.
semi good results. And then I was like, it doesn't really make sense because if I borrow conviction from someone, it's never gonna work. And also, I don't know their part. I don't know the risk. I don't know
Yes.
anything, right? So maybe I'll take a risk that I can't afford to take, looking at their setup, and then because I don't know their full plan, I don't know, how much they're willing to lose. Are they willing to add the position and all these kind of things? Then I will lose money. They'll make money eventually, or I'll, get impatient, or when the trade will stop going my way, I'll cut the trade. But directionally, I'll be right, right? So
Precisely.
that for
Precisely.
me, I'll be like, I can see what other people are doing, but fundamentally, I would sort of say I learned how to develop my own thesis and conviction. And for me, that was like a big unlock, right?
Yes, I fully agree with you. And I think that's such a relatable thing that you said, because I'm nodding my head heavily whilst you were speaking. Because I think what you're describing, I fully agree with that. And I think it's truly something natural that everybody goes through, you know. When you're introduced to trading, of course, you're going to look onto the guys that, you know, seemingly made it all, seemingly are really good at what they're doing. That's how you're going to learn, of course. But I also agree with you that um, they market it in a way where you get, again, you get involved with the memes. You know, this guy's winning, so I'm following him. But then again, there's so much more to trading than just finding a setup and borrowing your conviction, as you said. Then you know, the execution needs to be crisp. I think execution is very subjective. I think people have a very different risk tolerance, and naturally from characteristics. So if you were to follow my trades, for example, it could very well be that my risk taking on general is way too high for you, which puts you in an emotional state. And once, you know, as a trader, you know this, once you get emotional rather than rational, you're very inclined to make mistakes. And I think that's just something very natural in any journey of any trader. I think everybody went through that. I went through that myself too. Once I started learning, I found, you know, guys that I deemed very nice and very good and very successful. And no matter how good they were, no matter how good they explained it, you still needed to learn how to execute.
100%. And I think what also people confuse is like they would see trading as like, or to be more precise, influencers in trading, and what they post, they will see it like as two camps or black or white, right?
Yeah,
And this strategy is right and this strategy is wrong.
yeah,
While in fact, it's just not how it works, right? It doesn't mean like, because, you know, there's like this very big thing on, especially on Twitter, but I would say any social media ongoing, and also between traders, that like, oh, this guy's right, this guy's wrong. And I'll for example, good example, I would see Matter Trades, who is one of the top traders on Binance leaderboards that we also did an interview with. And I think I saw him like being down a million or 1.5 million, right? And then he was like, okay, cool, chill. And then we were like, who you bastard, you know, you are
yeah,
losing
man.
money and all this. And then today, I think he posted he's up like 3 mil or something, right? So that, you know, I think people don't get it. I think people don't get it. Like, they are watching and they are expecting that they can become a good trader just by borrowing conviction, looking at someone. It's just not how it works. And in my opinion, everyone has to make their own mistakes to learn. And
Yes.
I'm curious, like, for you, what was that journey? Because every single trader at the beginning makes mistakes, and I think later on, it's like trading is like an introspection journey towards yourself, because you have to understand your own triggers. Why do you make decisions? How do you react to certain stuff? All these kind of things. So I'm wondering, what was that for you, and how did you overcome this thing so now you can be a profitable trader?
A very good question. So let's go back to my journey a little bit. I think 5 to 6 years. I've been introduced very naturally, like everybody is
Okay.
introduced to crypto. Like, you have this one friend who's making a lot of money. It was 2020. It was in a
Yeah.
bull market. You know how it goes in a bull market. You just click any green button and you're making a lot of money. Now this guy is constantly nagging my head of, yeah, I'm making so much money, you're not doing anything, why are you not doing anything? And at one point you get fed up with that, you know. So I'm in
Yeah.
university, I have a lot of spare time, and I'm like, okay, well, at the worst case scenario, this is a good money making skill to learn: investing, trading. I was studying macroeconomics, I was already interested in all of this, so it
Mm.
was a good match. um that said, when I started, that was around May 2021. Well, I don't know if you remember, but that was like a few days before a crazy flash crash. So that
I
was
joined
a
in a
nice,
very similar time, so I actually remember this time very well.
yeah. So that was for me. I always say that's the best thing that ever happened to me. Not
Okay.
starting in a bull market, but starting in a crash, because right off the bat, I was humble. You know, I had humility for the market. I was like, wow, that's
Hmm.
crazy. And in those first 2 years of my journey, I was always focused on trying to learn how to make a setup.
Hey, real quick, if you trade crypto or Forex and you keep running into the same set of mistakes, like taking profits too early, moving stop losses all the time, chasing the pump at 3 a.m., I know exactly what you're doing because I've been in the same place. And that's why we built Lock-in. Analyze thousands of accounts, over 400 data points per trade, 11 emotional states, every single thing that destroy traders. It's like whoop, bad for traders. Now, if you want to get access to top 7 mistakes that destroy over 90% of accounts, go to lockin.trade and leave your email. That will also put you on a priority access for the Lock-in app. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
Trying to learn how to analyze a chart and trying to make a setup. That's all I did in 2 years. I followed streams, I followed guys, and once I succeeded in that, I realized that I was still far from a profitable trader. My biggest mistakes then were not in the framing the setup, but in executing that setup. And from that moment, I kind of stepped away from that trading is this one-dimensional thing, and learned along the way that trading is a multivariable, and none of these variables can be ignored to be profitable. In the broader lines, I now, after 5 to 6 years, I divide them in 3 subcategories. One is planning. So you plan a trade. Obviously, what you're going to need for that is knowledge. You make a plan, trade the plan. Then you have execution as a second step. Execution has everything to do with psychology and everything to do with sticking to your system, having the conviction to stick to your system, having that confidence. And then lastly, something I also didn't do whatsoever and was a big mistake in hindsight is reflecting. Because reflecting as a third option allows you to tweak your system in a way where it's very personalized and beneficial for your own trades and for your own trading mechanics. So I would say that for sure was my biggest mistake, the executional part. I didn't trade that much in the first 2 years. I was soaking in all the information, and I had good mentors, but nevertheless, I did fuck ups, and that's the executional part for me. I think I'm a big believer in this. If you combine knowledge with perseverance and sheer repetition, that's where you create your confidence in your system. That's where you create an edge.
Can you define that executional vertical for me? Like where would you say exactly did you struggle? Was it, let's say, moving a stop loss, not taking profit, oversizing, undersizing? What would you say it was?
I think there's 2 major things, and it's the most common mistakes. I think there are studies on this even. I think when I was in profits, I took my profit too early, being satisfied too early. That's in essence that you not listening to the plan you framed. Because if you frame a good plan, you have certain take profits, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 take profits. You have to listen to your plan. And if you're going to take your profits beforehand, essentially what it is not enough conviction in your plan to succeed fully. So that's one big thing, taking profits too early. But also, and this is the way more dangerous part, is letting losses run too much. Thinking it's gonna be okay, adding to a position. And the crazy part is, bro, I learned all these things to not do that. But once you're in that trade,
it's not that obvious.
Yeah, exactly, because you're clouded with emotion. The ration just leaves your body. And I always like to see emotion as this avalanche. Like it starts with a little snowflake, and then when you're in the middle of a trade and everything goes wrong, you're getting more and more emotional, more inclined to make more mistakes, do the exact things you're taught not to do. So yeah, those 2 things, brother, like taking profits too early and also adding to losing positions.
I would say, bro, to be honest, mine is the same. And what I discovered is that those 2 are actually, they go together. And the reason why you take profits too early is because you had all these losses that you didn't cut early, right? So then your brain works in a way where it's like, I've been in drawdown so long. When I see profit is profit, right? And then you're like,
Yeah, man.
oh, then you start to rationalize. You're like, you can't go wrong taking profits.
Mm-hmm.
So you start taking profits, right?
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
but logically, these two things are not combined at all. Like the fact that you lost and small profit on a different trade, these two things are not connected. But your brain, again, rationalizes. And I also like what you said about that you don't see it in the moment, because like fundamentally, all the things we are saying on this podcast, this is not new. There is no secrets to trading. We all know what to do. We all know what to do. We know we should take profits. We know that we should cut the losses. We know we should keep the proper risk management, blah, 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 blah. However, in the moment, you tend to forget. And I think the only thing that separates traders that succeed on a market from those that don't are the systems that they have in place. To give you an example, I was just interviewing a trader 3 or 4 days ago, and he was like, I know that after a certain time, let's say after a New York session, after I'm done with my trading, I'll be keen to check more. I want to trade more. But what I do is I go out for dinner, for example, and I have a specific Google password that is like a one-time password to my exchange, so I don't remember it, and I log it out from my phone. So there is no risk of me taking a trade drunk or something like that. And I think that's where you have to take it to some extent, because we are very vulnerable at the end of the day.
I agree with that, man. I agree with that. If I look at myself as well, you're very inclined to look at all the trades as a streak, whereas objectively speaking, every trade is a new trade. Objectively, like trade 2 has nothing to do with trade 1. But then
in your head it does, but I mean, logically, it's not connected.
yes, exactly. So in your brain, it's now connected all of a sudden, and I think that's subconsciously also a big part of why you were adding to losing positions, for example, because subconsciously, what your brain, whether it's true or not, is telling you, yeah, but it can't go down more because now it went down so much, and then you get in these kind of mental frameworks. And that's just not objective at all. I always use and like the quote of a world famous quote. I bet you know it, but the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. And that's the quote that I really had to experience a few times, and really, I had to learn the hard way as well. And
I think everyone.
Yeah, bro. I think that's part of the journey. And I think that's part of the journey that makes a successful trader, learning how to lose. Because to me, everybody in this space, in this world, is so focused on the winning. Like everybody is focused on framing a trade, focused on, well, my profits were, I don't know, $15,000 in an hour, or 150K, or 1.5 million. Everybody's so focused on this. And that's also why it's so attractive for a broader public. That's why they come in, they see this, and they're attracted by that. But nobody, or not nobody, but not a lot of people are actually telling you that you need to learn how to lose as well. We're exercising an edge here. That means, by default, even the best traders, your top trader on Binance went minus 1.5 million.
Yeah.
Even though he's the top of the top, brother. Everybody's going to incur losses because we're exercising an edge. We're not exercising a guarantee. And that means you have to learn how to lose as well in trading.
Yeah, I think it's because I believe it's because conditioning, because the way we are brought, like as kids, most parents will, or even school, they will instill this way of thinking where they associate a loss with something negative, right? So then you don't see the loss as a loss. I mean, loss is a loss, right? You put the definition, you assign the definition. So if you're gonna see it as like, I lost money means I'm a bad human being, then it's gonna be hard for you. That's what I would say. On the flip side, every strategy, even the one that is the most profitable, will always include losses, because trading is a game of probabilities, right? So if you win 7 out of 10, it still means that 3 out of 10 you will lose, and you just have to kind of like get over that. do you also have this, like, because a lot of traders say I backtest my strategy, so I trust in the strategy, I know I can have, you know, X amount of losing trades in a row. That's how also you do it, and that's something that helped you with execution, or you would say it's something else?
That helped me, yes. Something I also struggled with was my position sizing. I think position sizing is another key component of being a successful trader. And nowadays, my position sizing is always the same. That doesn't mean I won't add to trades, like I would take a swing trade and then later on add to trades, which makes it high risk. But every singular individual trade that I take on leverage or on perps is with the same allocation. And that helped me a lot, because I know that allocation now, after all this time, is not going to hurt me so much, even if I do 10 to 15 mistakes in a row. There's a study on this that shows when you increase from 1R, so 1% for me at least, to 2R or 3R in a trade, you are way more rapidly getting into that emotional substate as well. Now, if you lose 10%, or you lose 10 trades in a row, it's a lot, right? But it happens to everybody. You lose 10% of your portfolio. 10% of my portfolio is not something I worry about too much, even if I have 10 losses in a row. But now, if I were to translate that, let's say I would have a 3 or 4% risk per trade, and then do 10 losing trades in a row, the same trades, but with more risk. Now, all of a sudden, a 30 to 40% drawdown in my portfolio is so significant that I know that will put me in a more emotional state. So I always call this a little bit that, risk to reward are always correlated. And I actively choose to not go too overboard with the reward, so I can stay systematical in the losses.
How do you trade right now? Like, basically, what is your strategy? You don't have to give us all of the secret sauce, only some of it. But do you only trade a specific assets, only specific time? Are you more of a day trader, swing trader? What is your trading style?
I don't have any secrets, first of all. Everybody, I was actually planning to teach my full guide of everything that I use, because
sick.
my trading is what I would deem very basic. I don't use fancy indicators. I've tried them all in the beginnings. My main thing is price action and structure, translating a chart. And then I'll find confluence, because I think trading is a game of confluence. I rarely or never take trades that just have one variable.
Right.
And so I look at structure first. It's always first, price first, structure first. Simple concept, liquidity concepts, ICT, supply, demand, very, very simple concept. Then once I'm done with that, analyzing a chart, I find my confluence in oscillators, depending whether we're ranging or we're in a dynamic market. I find my confluence in oscillators and order flow mostly. Then I use Fibonacci's on the side, but that's the majority of it. And of course, when I zoom in a little bit, I like to scalp as well. I go to the weekly open levels, for example, all these open levels where you take low time frame trades. But for me, it's kind of hard to define one system, because I trade with different systems in different circumstances. I'm a big believer of time frame alignment and location alignment. And what I mean with that is knowing very well where the market is currently. Are we ranging, or are we in a moving market? 90% of the time, and a market is ranging and it isn't moving. And then you just have very basic ranging rules that I apply, where I'll take a swing trade on the extreme of the ranges and scalp in the middle of a range. Then when the market is moving, I use EMAs. I use basically just EMAs, but also trying to get a grasp of momentum. Momentum is very key for me in moving markets. So
That's
yeah, yeah.
basically you can
Oh
take
no,
notes.
sorry. Yeah,
I'm saying
yeah,
that's basically it.
yeah, man. I for me the biggest two differences is a ranging market and a moving market, and I apply different rules per where we are. I call that location alignment, knowing where you are now, and matching that with how you perform.
Yeah. What I like about how you describe those things is that it's very methodical and it doesn't really leave any space for maybe not mistakes, because mistakes happen, but randomness. And I think that's what
Yes.
most traders struggle with, right? Like they'll be like, and I think crypto especially is this kind of industry that romanticizes this kind of behavior a lot, way too much in my opinion, because you will see people that made it and got lucky once or twice, not because they are good traders, because they got lucky, and then you'll attribute their trading style towards being a profitable trader, and these are two completely different things. And there is too much of like, oh, I just took a crazy long and I'm up 100K, whatever. It's just not how it works. It's just not how it works.
Precisely. Precisely.
And yeah, because like if you speak, for example, with forex traders, these guys, they're on a whole other level. Like they will tell you every range, every indicator. They'll learn candlestick patterns and all these kind of things, because they have like a very specific strategy. And in crypto, there's, maybe you agree, maybe you don't agree, but there's a lot of vibe trading, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
this is cool, I'll buy this.
Yep. Yep. I agree.
Doesn't
And
work.
there's also this thing where it's kind of played into them because in trading there's multiple ways to roam always, right?
Yeah.
So these traders kind of, with the result, they sell the strategy and not the other way around. I think it always should be the other way around. You don't even have to show your result, and your strategy will just speak for itself. And that's exactly what you're saying as well. It's very possible that you get lucky, but that doesn't mean that the strategy is now all of the sudden waterproof.
100%. 100%. Speaking about the results, why did you start posting, your stuff on social media? What is your reasoning for that? Would you say it helps you?
Yes, I do think that helps me because I'm somebody ever since I was young. I'm
Okay.
this guy that whenever he steps into something, I'm getting very obsessed. Like we spoke about before.
Yeah.
Before we started recording, we spoke about this, and that means that once I get into it, I'm a very empathic guy. I like to lead by example, and I like to inspire people. I like to speak my leverage my value in a way, and I think
Mhm.
that's what's happening on social media. If you do it properly with the right amount of integrity, you can truly make something beautiful on social media, which is leveraging your value. I've spent 5 years developing that value. I explicitly shied away from social media for a long time until I deemed myself good enough, until I deemed myself valuable enough to a point where that basis value is now good enough to be leveraged on a community. And that's something truly beautiful that I get from on being on X, like things like this, even a podcast. I truly like those things, but also not just from the taker side, so the people that read my content, but also leveling with like-minded individuals, getting good inspiration from them, and just energy in general. Is truly was something I was pleasantly surprised about on X. I've really been enjoying that.
Yeah, yeah, and also I like that. I think also some people say that it helps them to kind of like keep themselves accountable, if that makes sense. Because it's it's technically harder to execute if no one is watching, right? Because
Yes.
you kind of still leave the room for like, oh, maybe I'll trade the way I feel. I'm not going to really follow my plan. But if you posted the trade on X, you posted the trade on X.
That's true, man. That's actually true. I never looked at it that way, but it's true. Whenever I'm writing up my tweets, I'm always thinking like I have to explain it very well. I have to be systematical, so you convey the right message. But I never really thought about it that way. But that's really true, man. I fully agree with that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good lesson. This is something that I fundamentally believe in. So when no one is watching, you are more likely to break the rules, right? Example.
Yes.
When you get a coach in the gym, why do you get a coach? You know you should train hard to fail or whatever. But if you get a coach and the coach is gonna tell you to do these few extra reps, you're gonna do them.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you are not gonna do it if there is no coach, but mathematically the probability is lower that you will not do it if someone is not watching, right?
100%. Yes, that's very true.
This is one of the things we want to do actually with lock-in, because you need tools to keep you accountable. You just need them, right? Because in the moment, like, you're the ones clicking buttons, but if there's someone or something that's kind of can stop you, that thing decreases, right?
I've seen it, man. Tell me a little bit about it, because I was so curious about it. So how does this work? Yeah, let's say I'm a trader, right? Let's say I'm going to use lock-in. How would that work? Like, what would it do for me?
Good question. So I would say we started off as a trading journal, something like that. First of all, fundamentally, the reason why we even build this is because I lost a lot of money. I was like, fuck, most of my losses come from the same mistakes. And I think there's more people like that. I spoke with some people. They're like, oh yeah, I struggle with that as well. So I was like, maybe you can productize it. And then I ended up meeting a guy who is deeply in retail Forex companies, like CFD. So he has been doing that for like 30 years. And he has a lot of data on like how the markets move, what people think, how they make decisions, all these kind of things, what distinguishes profitable traders from not profitable traders. And then we're like, why nobody's doing this? Because there's no tools. Because if you were to do it manually, if you were to like manually upload your trades somewhere, right, like where to AI, to give public AI data on your trading, some people are not willing to do it, right? That's why we run a private AI. Like, we don't sell this data somewhere else. But essentially what we did is we integrated every single exchange that exists, all the Binances, KuCoins, Bybits of the world, and also perpdexes like Hyperliquid, GRVT extended, all these kind of things. And we packaged that into a few things. So there's a thing called, the way we call it is Whoop for traders, right? So you log in, you see your morning, you know what you did the day before, you know if you're on a winning streak or a losing streak, you know your edge, you can work on your edge. For me, the most exciting part is that I can actually talk to my data, and it's a coach that you can chat with based on your data. So it learns exactly how you communicate, what mistakes you make. We can tell which day of the week is best or worse. What are your best setups? Why do you lose money? And usually, 7 out of 10 of those mistakes are the same. And then also you get personal education based on that, personalized education. So, okay, if you keep moving your stop loss, this is your lesson. Okay, why you keep moving your stop loss? And then you go through the work with coach. The coach learns about you. And then the next trade, if you, let's say, keep doing that, is like, hey, we are flagging this mistake. This is literally what happened three times in a row, and now you're doing it again. So we exactly know, or there's like, oh, your position size is somehow too big or too small compared to what you did before. Why is that? What is happening? And you get notified in real time. And there's more and more use cases, and I'm like really excited to use it for my personalized trading. I'm like, this can help. Like, even last night I was doing analysis because we are basically before App Store. So there's a thing called test flight where all the apps land, and it told me basically the range for Bitcoin, and I traded it, and it was good. Like, I made profit. So that's kind of where we at.
That's sick, man. Because if you put it into perspective a little bit, and what we talked about earlier about those, let's say we go back to those three steps: plan, execute, and reflect. I think this is truly diving deeper into the execution part, and helping people to realize their mistakes timely can save so much money. And I think I think this is such a correct way to instill value on X, but also with platforms like these. Like I fully support that, because as I
Appreciate
said,
it.
yeah, man, it's so much about winning, but so little about executing. And this is exactly what the product is playing into. So I truly like that, man. Yeah, I
Man,
can
like
see it.
my mission is I just know how it feels. You can guys
Yeah,
say whatever you want, but I just know how it feels, and you know
yeah,
as well
man.
how it feels to keep losing, and you don't know why you're losing, and you also do things that you know you're not supposed to be doing, and then you kind of like spiral emotionally, right? And
Yeah,
there is also a very heavy cost to trading, like emotional cost to trading, that almost nobody talks about. Like from time to time, you will see those stories on Twitter of like, oh, I just got liquidated, lost everything, whatever. But people romanticize trading, and it's not that easy at the end of the day. Like it's very hard. Like it's actually very hard.
I
So
yeah,
me,
sorry.
if you just to close this up, if you treat trading as a profession, treat it as a profession, right? If you are an athlete, you make sure to understand. Let's say you're a basketball player, right? You'll understand and you'll do your best to understand why you miss.
Yep.
And then if you work on the things that don't work, automatically the things that work, they fill the gap, and you're higher. So if you decrease the bad, the good will increase. The only problem is that people don't reflect back, or they don't have enough patience to even get to that stage of like, oh, I made a mistake, but it's okay. I understand why I made the mistake, and now I can finally move on, improve, and just continue on the journey, which is what you talk about, a lot when it comes to like very systematic approach. There's my system. I don't think about the outcome. I think about what's here and now in front of me.
Yeah, man. I agree with that so much, and I think this can't be stressed enough. But I think trading is actually one of the most mentally demanding professions there is, and the reason why is partly what you spoke about. It's like you're falling, but you don't know really why. And then the impact of that fall is truly significant for many, because I know the rule is that you shouldn't be trading with a lot of money, but you know as well as me that in real time it's what's going to happen with people. They're still going to trade with a lot of money they couldn't afford to lose in hindsight, and then the emotional spiral, like you said, is just starting, and the emotional toll it takes for having continuous feedback in trading. That's what I call it. Yeah, a trader continuously lives in the what if, I should have, I could have,
Yeah.
because everything you do today, you'll have your feedback tomorrow. And no matter what trade you take today, it isn't going to be perfect tomorrow. And if you live in that mindset, even if I take a 30% trade and the move was 35%, it still wasn't perfect. So in a sense, even more so amplified by losses, because you take a loss and the next day you see the chart and there were so many opportunities to do something right. It's so demanding, and you really need to step away from. I would like to say you need to chase perfection in trading, as with any endeavor, but you need to be okay with not reaching perfection, because to me that's impossible in trading.
Hey, real quick, if you trade crypto or Forex and you keep running into the same set of mistakes, like taking profits too early, moving stop losses all the time, chasing the pump at 3 a.m., I know exactly what you're doing, because I've been in the same place. And that's why we built Lock-in. Analyze thousands of accounts, over 400 data points per trade, 11 emotional states, every single thing that destroy traders. It's like whoop, bad for traders. Now, if you want to get access to top 7 mistakes that destroy over 90% of accounts, go to lockin.trade and leave your email. That will also put you on a priority access for the Lock-in app. Now, let's get back to the podcast. Yeah. Like anyone that is like, oh, I could have made more, or I could have lost less. Yeah, but like there is so many variables that you can't really like. When you have a strategy, you need to accept what is the cost of the strategy, and a cost of every strategy
Yes.
is that you're gonna miss out on stuff, and you're gonna miss out on profits, right? But what matters is to make consistent profits and stay in the game. So you have to understand that you'll miss out on stuff. If you focus on leverage, maybe you're gonna miss out on meme coins, right? If you focus on Bitcoin, you're gonna miss out maybe on ETH. But
Yes.
it's okay. Like if you want to be good at anything, you do have to focus, and the only thing it takes to realize it's just like this mental switch. And that's where I personally believe AI is very useful, because AI doesn't have emotions, right?
Yeah,
AI can be biased if you prompt it in the wrong way, but it doesn't have emotions. Good example, I have a friend, and he was telling me recently, he was like, dude, I'm on a losing streak, I'm losing money, and I see a good setup in front of me, and I'm like, I don't know if I should take it. So I uploaded to AI, and I'm like, just analyze this for me, give me facts, no emotions, don't be biased, blah blah blah.
yeah, yeah.
And he ended up taking the trade that was a winning trade, but the summary of that is, in that moment he couldn't take that trade, right? Which is what happens after a loss, because
Yeah.
you're like, what if I'm gonna lose money for the 6th time or the 7th time?
It's funny you say that, and I agree with this. But let's go back a little bit, because I heard you speak about accepting the loss, and I have a pretty defined view on that. Like, what would you say enables you to truly accept a loss? So you make a loss. What would you say later on is you can say to yourself, you can look at yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, like, okay, it's fine, it's okay.
I'll definitely say, I would say it takes time, always. Like for me, I wasn't okay with losing for a very long time. It just came naturally. I think to some extent it's a balance between caring and not caring. So it's like, from one perspective, every single move that you do, it does matter, and like you do have to pay attention. But on the other side, nothing matters. So lose or lose, it's okay. As long as obviously, disclosure, as long as it's the amount you're comfortable losing, right?
Yes.
But I mean, even if you risk an amount that you're not comfortable losing, and you're not gonna adaptive mindset, you're gonna keep beating up yourself, right? So I think it's actually even deeper, and I think that comes from, like, in general, the way I live my life is, I always think there's always another opportunity, there's always another day. There's only lessons, there's no, I just don't want to regret stuff, but I can also always take something good out of a bad situation.
Yep.
I feel like if I didn't have that mindset, I would, it will get into my head. But yeah, I would say it's a process. And and one thing I would also say is detachment from money. Like, and I don't remember who told me that, but there was a guy who I was speaking with, and he was comparing basically trading to poker. And he was like, when I'm playing poker, the chips are not the money, the chips are the chips. So, one chip is not whatever, 50, $100, $1,000. Chip is the chip. So I'm betting chips. I'm betting chips, and it's not money. It's not money until I cash out. It's not money. I'm not trading my house. I'm not trading my car. I'm not thinking what I could buy for this money. So that kind of also helped me, and I think that's also a thing of sizing. Like if you have bad sizing, you're always gonna. I mean, bad means too high. If you have too high sizing, you're always gonna think, "Oh, I just lost the watch. I just lost the car." So that will probably mean that you have to trade with a lower size. How did you deal with losses, man? Now it's like you're interviewing me.
No, but it's just curious because you said so much of the right things, or I don't know if I would call it the right things. I think it is, but let's say I agree with that, but to me, one key point is missing a little bit, because and for me, this all learning how to lose circles back to conviction in your system. Because if you truly have conviction in your system that it will perform over a certain end statistically, then you're completely okay with losing. And of course, all the variables you named, sizing is important for that. We spoke about it. Your mindset, persevering mindset, that you learn rather than you lose and you beat yourself up for it. But to me, it all circles back to when I make a loss, I can look at myself and say, over the last 2 years, you've been a profitable trader. Your N has been good. This is part of the game. It's not like your system doesn't work anymore. Whatever happened, you made a loss. That's it. So it's easy for me to detach from the entire losing or winning part, because I actually already truly liked what you said earlier, that it's subconsciously instilled in the mind of people where losing is now something super bad. But if we truly look at that, the biggest success stories come from losing, not just trading. Any successful CEO had to overcome hurdles. Any
Yeah.
successful CEO, anybody that has success in their life, that they learned in overcoming hurdles. And
You know what I've seen? I've seen this. Sorry to interrupt you. I've seen this video. I have to kind of like quote it here. I've seen this video where it's like, why do you accept failure in the gym when you know it's good for you, and then you don't accept it in life or in trading, right? And when I
yes,
for gym people like you or me will understand it, and then I was like, damn, just it's just so accurate. I mean, so obvious, but it
yes,
just
man.
hits you. And fundamentally, I agree with you. A big part of the success factor in trading is what is your relationship with losses.
Yes. And it's funny you say that, because I heard the same exact quote and the same exact video, and I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, man, you need in the gym you're destroying your muscles, or not destroying, but hurting your muscles to grow them in the long term.
Mechanically, yeah, you're destroying your muscle fibers.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're investing on the low time frame to get something in the high time frame. Like basically investing.
Yeah.
That's it's just sometimes it comes across a little bit too much and almost autistic, but that's like how I look at so many things in life,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
trading
I
no
think
different.
it's actually no different. Like, what I also always like to tell people is like, you don't have to figure out everything. You don't have to solve the whole universe here and now. It's just not how it works.
Yeah,
Like, do you think all these big guys, they knew what they're doing? Of course, no. The only thing that you can realistically control is your inputs, right? What is an input? So if an input is analyzing the chart, having a strategy, following the strategy, having a checklist, going to the gym, eating healthy. So like, you don't think about, okay, how do I get a six pack? You're like, what do I do to maintain whatever 2,500 calories a day
yes,
and
bro.
sleep 8 hours and eat 180 grams of protein? You do that for 6 months, and guarantee you'll do better.
Yes, bro. Yes, yes, yes. It's funny because I use this metaphor all the time for traders. I use this like I always ask people, like, everybody wants a six pack. How come nobody or almost nobody has it? They start at zero and they want a six pack, but it's work. It's compounding effort. I'm also a big believer of compounding. Like when you show up consistently, ultimately your effort and your value in that sense going to compound over time.
Yeah, that's, I think, the patience factor in trading, because like people often, I actually do believe that this is related. Like, a big part of the reason why people don't have patience these days is because of social media.
Yeah.
Because when you're conditioned to have instant gratification,
Yes.
and I mean, that's the whole meme coin thing, right? You buy and you sell 10 seconds later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then people are surprised why they can't hold a position for like days sometimes, or weeks, or like these swing traders, they will open their laptop like few times and place a big trade, and that's it, and they just go with their life. And the only reason why they are able to do it is because they have different inputs. Like, they actually learn how to be patient, which is easier said than done, but I would say still possible these days.
I think it's possible too, and I think you hit the nail on its head, because the current society, everything in society is fast paced.
Yeah.
Every content, all the content on all the big platforms is like 5 to 7 seconds. I see the people around me, children around me, taking in that content,
Oh,
like
that's insane.
getting
That's
all
insane.
those getting all those crazy dopamine hits. The amount of dopamine they're getting in an hour is just enough to exhaust you for 23 hours, the remaining 23 hours of the day. And that fast-paced society we live in, it really goes at the cost of patience and having the ability to focus on a longer period of time.
I mean,
So
if
yeah.
you really think about it, this is why people revenge trade, right? Because like, if let's say you assume, okay, I make one trade a day, and if and there's a lot of people that attribute dopamine to trading, right? There's like an emotional hit. Oh, I just made money and
Yeah.
lost money,
Mm-hmm.
and very often it's more about the dopamine hit than about the results. which is kind of like the same mechanism as gambling, right? Doesn't matter if you're winning or losing, you just keep playing because for the thrill of the game. But if you tell that person you can only make one trade a day, they're like, so what do I do for the rest of the day? Like,
Yeah.
here I can get a new video every 5 seconds, and now I can only trade one time a day. What is going on?
Yeah, man, and that's where forcing trade comes into play. I'm a big
Oh, yeah, that's a
believer
big
of,
one.
I'm a big believer of letting the price come to executional zones, and then in that executional zone you execute your trade. If price isn't in there, you simply don't do anything. You let price come to you and not the other way around, because I think, especially in crypto, chasing trades is the worst thing you can do, because chasing trades is usually what leads to you being the inverse liquidity of the move.
Yeah. I would say it's what we are speaking about right now. A big part of it is understanding what kind of person do you have to become to be a successful trader. And of course, a big part of that has to do with the strategy, execution, but it also has a lot to do with how you live your life, because those habits, and I would almost say character traits, they'll
Yes.
definitely have an impact on the way you trade. And I just saw in myself, and I can say it is a good example, because like my whole life has been about building companies before, right? So what you are rewarded for doing, you're rewarded for taking fast execution and not necessarily waiting too long, right? So jumping on the opportunity. And that's why a lot of great entrepreneurs are very shitty investors, and it goes the other way around, because acquiring the money and keeping the money are two different skill sets, two different completely character traits are required for that. And that, I would say, that was like a big unlock for me. It took me a long time to understand that, like, when I'm training, I'm a different person. When I'm working, I'm a different person. I definitely realized it, too late, but it is what it is.
I
We
don't
live
think that.
our life.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's a beautiful thing that you found that balance, and that you kind of step out of your head and can see that. And it's quite funny, because I told you the traits that I'm displaying in trading now is something I've had since I was like
Yeah.
10 years old mostly, and
Yeah.
to me, I always have this fire for entrepreneurship as well. But for me, it was like the exact 180 of what you're describing now. Like, sometimes I'm too analytical, too patient, not I'm analyzing too much. That's for entrepreneurship, that can be a death sentence. You can overanalyze anything, but if you're not moving at the end of the day, then you're not getting anything done.
Yeah. I mean, that's the case for, I would say, anything in life, because I think both exceptions, both edge cases are bad. Bad meaning
Yeah,
not useful,
yeah,
because you're either gonna overanalyze and not make a decision, or you're gonna make tons of bad decisions with no strategic thinking, right? So ideally, is to
exactly.
be somewhere in the middle, analyze, but also take action when it's time to take action.
I definitely think that's the key to productivity in general. Like, that balance right there, I think is a very big key to unlock good productivity.
I think also productivity. Yes, I think also a good word is sustainability, because a lot of the
Yes.
things that are kind of like preached online are not sustainable. So, like, to give you an example, if you tell someone to work for 18 hours a day and they'll do it for a month, they will have success, but they will not maintain that success.
Mm-hmm.
But if you tell them, okay, work 8 hours, or let's even say work 10 hours, work 10 hours a day, but you'll maintain it for a year, and you go very far. And the same thing goes for the gym, for trading, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah, man.
Focus on like what's sustainable, I would say.
Yeah, man. I agree with that. It's the same thing with gym, indeed. Like, healthy habits that you can just doesn't cost too much effort, to the point where they just burn you out and you can't sustain that.
100%. 100%. Okay, I want to ask you the last question. If you were starting out in trading and you had to give someone advice, or sorry, if you had to give someone advice who is starting in trading, what would you say?
Don't focus too much on the winning. Learn how to lose as well.
Love it.
See it as a process, not so much about the means that are at the end of that process.
Love it. For the people that want to follow you, where they can find you?
My access on JordiCharts the same way that has been on this platform. So
Awesome.
yeah.
We're also gonna link it below so people can see it.
Thank you, man. I really appreciated this. Very good talk, very good interview. It was lovely.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I think it was amazing, and I think people will get tremendous value out of that.